Welcome! Just like in our series of Svadhyaya, today we are going to explain a profound psychological roadmap to eternal bliss, and we're drawing this directly from the original philosophical texts of Sri Sri Anandamurti. So if you've ever found yourself wondering how the everyday nuts and bolts mechanics of your mind actually connect to the absolute highest states of consciousness, well, you're in exactly the right place. We are going to break down the highly specific, incredibly logical steps that take us from our ordinary run-of-the-mill thoughts all the way to maximum psychic expansion.
Now, to truly grasp this roadmap, we first need to get grounded in the core concept of Svadhyaya itself. Svadhyaya is, it's a lot more than just casually skimming a book. It's a deeply internal, highly active journey. It is the comprehensive practice of spiritual self-study. And we're talking about the careful reading, reflection, and absolute assimilation of profound spiritual texts. By engaging in Svadhyaya, we aren't just memorizing ancient words. We're essentially using these concepts as mirrors to understand the hidden inner workings of our own minds and souls. It's literally the foundational practice that makes this entire inner journey possible.
Okay, so let's actually dive into this excerpt, which comes straight from Sri Sri Anandamurti's writings on psycho-spiritual practice. What we are studying today in this explainer is a primary text that maps out an exact, undeniable logical chain. It absolutely does not ask for blind faith. Instead, it gives us this highly structured analysis of exactly how our mental tendencies operate, how they get blocked up, and the very specific psychic tools we need to break through those blocks and achieve a supreme state of being.
To start wrapping our heads around this process, the text introduces a really foundational Sanskrit concept, Shraddh Satyam Tasmin Diyate Iti Shraddha. Take a second to just let the resonance of those ancient words settle in. It's powerful stuff, because this single line essentially encapsulates the entire engine that drives all spiritual progress.
When we translate that into English, it essentially means Shraddha is the pursuit of supreme truth. Now, we hear the word Shraddha tossed around a lot in everyday life, usually loosely translated as faith, but as this source text makes perfectly, brilliantly clear, that definition is just way too simplistic. Actually, scratch that. It's not just simplistic, it misses the whole point. Shraddha is an active, relentless pursuit. It's this profound, laser-focused alignment of the mind towards something absolute. So, the big question is, how exactly do we cultivate that powerful state?
Well, what's really interesting here is the exact logical progression the text lays out. You don't just magically wake up one morning with Shraddha. Step 1 is logical deliberation. You literally have to use your intellect to analyze and understand what you're aiming for. Then, step 2, after that thorough due deliberation, you come to accept something as absolute. And it is only then, at step 3, that you naturally develop Shraddha, which is this deep, deep veneration in the mind. It's a completely rational, step-by-step pathway to a spiritual awakening.
So here is the absolutely crucial point to take away. Shraddha is fundamentally the expansion of your mind or your citta. The text heavily emphasizes that a person who has no respect for the goal can never, ever attain success. It's just not going to happen. You must have immense, unwavering respect for the exact object that is causing your mind to expand in the first place. And this veneration, it isn't submissive at all. It's deeply empowering. It is literally the fuel that allows your mind to stretch way beyond its normal everyday limits.
To really understand why this expansion is such a game changer, let's compare it to how our minds normally operate on a daily basis. The text outlines two everyday psychic tendencies, pravritti and nivritti. Essentially, these are the standard outward and inward movements of our thoughts. And the fascinating, kind of tricky rule of the mind is that the more you practice either of these tendencies, the more your mind just naturally becomes adjusted to them. It's a classic habit loop. You practice a tendency, it gets easier, and your mind settles right into that familiar, comfortable groove.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates a huge distinction in the text. Samádhi, which is the ultimate goal, is completely beyond the scope of those everyday tendencies of pravritti and nivritti. Now, while you don't strictly need Shraddha to just go about your daily psychic habits, the text states explicitly that Shraddha is absolutely indispensable for attaining Samádhi. There's just no way around it. You cannot reach the highest possible peak using your everyday run-of-the-mill tools.
Let's define that peak a little more clearly. Samádhi is defined here as the state of maximum expansion of the mind. It is the absolute ultimate release from all our limitations. And because we've already established that Shraddha is the initial expansion of the mind, Shraddha acts as the absolute mandatory first stage in attaining Samádhi. You start by expanding your mind through that deep veneration, and that sets your trajectory for the ultimate maximum expansion.
We can see this exact dynamic beautifully detailed in the original Hindi script.
The text invites us to think of the mind as a river. During spiritual practice, or psycho-spiritual assimilation, this river requires a smooth, perfectly unidirectional flow straight toward its goal. When the mind is locked onto that supreme object of veneration, the current is strong, it's focused, and it runs true.
But, as anyone who has ever tried to meditate knows, the river doesn't always flow smoothly, does it? The source material points out a very practical, everyday reality. Sometimes, an undesirable thought, like a negative psychic wave, drops into your mental river like a massive boulder. It completely blocks that smooth, unidirectional flow along your spiritual path. Suddenly, your mental expansion is totally threatened, and the mind is at serious risk of being diverted off course.
So what happens when this blockage occurs? Well, passive meditation just isn't going to cut it. We need a massive surge of power. And this is where the text introduces the concept of Viirya, or spiritual vigor. This isn't just everyday energy. It is a very special type of psychic power. It's the active, forceful, almost warrior-like energy required to completely dispel that negative thought and literally smash the boulder blocking your river. It's absolutely essential.
Let's take a look at how this all builds together, because honestly, this is where the pure genius of this system really shines. It's an inner battle for sure. The mind desperately seeks its flow. Negative thoughts block it. But here is the ultimate secret weapon, Viirya. That immense spiritual vigor arises as a direct, natural result of Shraddhá, because you have already done the logical deliberation, because you have developed that profound veneration. The exact psychic power you need to crush those obstacles is naturally born right there within you.
So pulling it all together from the source texts, this is our ultimate, highly practical journey of expansion. It kicks off with Shraddhá, that initial expansion through veneration and the active pursuit of truth. That Shraddhá naturally fuels your Viirya, giving you the raw spiritual vigor to conquer absolutely any negative blockages. And finally, with the path completely cleared, that smooth, unidirectional flow leads you straight to Samádhi, the absolute maximum expansion of the mind.
As we wrap up today's explainer in our Svadhyaya series, I really want you to take a moment to just reflect on your own inner river. You already have the logical capacity. You have the potential for immense veneration. And because of that, you possess the exact spiritual vigor needed to clear your own path. So ask yourself this: what undesirable thought is blocking your flow right now? And exactly how will your spiritual vigor conquer it today? Keep studying, keep expanding, and we will see you next time.